Hi folks, welcome to the channel. My name's Colin, amateur radio call sign MM0OPX. Now, a couple of months ago, Retivis got in contact with me and they asked me if they could send me this handy in exchange for a review. So to be clear, they've not paid me for this review, but they have sent me this radio in exchange for it. So this radio is not actually an amateur radio. Retivis actually just started marketing this as a commercial radio. And the radio itself is the RT81 Victor, the V standing for VHF. Now, I understand that this radio in just the standard RT81 has been around for a couple of years in UHF, and it's a radio that's kind of designed for urban environments. Well, this one being the VHF version, this is designed to be used like long-range outdoor communications. With it being VHF, it covers the full range from 136 through 174 megahertz in FM, but curiously enough, it also covers DMR, fully compatible with Tier 1 and Tier 2, which makes it quite interesting. As I said, it's not an amateur radio, so there's not actually a whole lot to it. If you want to use the radio, you need to program it, so you need to download the free CPS software, code plug software from the Retivis website, and that's quite simple. You just type in the product number on the website and you download the piece of software, and it's relatively simple and easy to use. And talking of their website, I will put a full a link to this down in the description, and you can check it out if you want to. I believe that there's a sale on it at the minute, and at the time of making this video, this radio is around about $75, so it doesn't look or doesn't sound expensive on the face of it. Now, I do some other hobbies apart from amateur radio, and I do use frequencies out with amateur radio, these being in the UK some of the short range business frequencies, and that's actually where I've been using and testing out this radio. I do have some experience with the older, like the Motorola GP300 radios, and some of the even older Kenwood, like the Kenwood TK radios. And this radio actually feels every bit as solid as they do. It really does feel, a nice bit of kit. One thing I will say, the antenna that's supplied, this is the only thing of the antenna I think that feels light. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but it just feels kind of lightweight compared to some of the other antennas. But again, I'm not saying anything wrong with it. So I'll just put that to the side first. I didn't do an unboxing, but this is the box that it comes in here. In Retivis box, obviously English manual, and it's really quite good, quite understandable. So no, really not a lot to say about the manual. Obviously I've been in here already. The programming cable, I believe that this doesn't come with the programming cable, but you will need to buy one. Now, I also have the Retivis RT85, and it's the same programming cable. This is just some of the packaging, the other bits and pieces came in. So obviously the radio came with the belt clip, and it came with the strap, and as you can see, this strap's almost worn through, but that's not the fault of the item. That's because it's been in my pocket and it's been rubbing against the zip. And the charger that comes with the radio, it's a nice drop-in charger, so I quite like that. And it obviously came with a UK plug, so depending on where you are, it will come with a different plug. Put that to the side. So I said it's very, very simple. We'll start on the side here. We've actually got a little sealable panel, and this, if I could open it up, I had this tight because I was doing some testing on it. If I take that off, you can see that it's just kind of got the standard speaker mic type socket. And that's obviously how you program it. So you need to plug the cable into there. And we'll just put that back on. It's got a little tag on the side of it, so if you've got a lot of these radios, you can put whose it is, you know, radio 1, radio 2, because imagine if you're going to have these, you're going to have a bank of these. The radio, the battery fits in really quite nicely. So Retevis, they say this is a 7.4 volt 22 amp hour battery. Now Retivis actually spec this radio at high power 10 watts and low power 1 watt, and we're actually going to check this because, as with a lot of Chinese radios, sometimes that's a little bit optimistic, but we're going to check that out and we'll see what it does. The battery round here, it's actually got a seal which obviously gives it its waterproofness, and talking of which, Retivis rate this radio as IP67, so I believe that to be water resistant, so you could submerge this for I think it's a meter for 30 minutes and the radio would still be okay. And I'm actually going to show you a video of me testing that. Not quite extreme, but we can have a little bit look at that later on. Looking at the top of the radio, obviously we've got the antenna, and I should say that I actually like this antenna socket because it's got an SMA male. I quite like that, and it's quite like that on like a lot of the Japanese radios, and not like some of the other ones. So I mean, you could change the antenna easy enough if you wanted, of course. So we've got the on-off button here. So this is your, obviously your on and your volume.
Power on. 1.
So that tone that you heard there actually was quite familiar, wasn't it? You can actually turn that off in the code plug software if you don't want to hear that. Obviously we've got our channel buttons here on the top. So as you move the channels, the number changes. Now you get 16 channels on this, but you actually get 32 channels in total. So what you do is you need to change the zone, and I'll come to that later, but you have 32 channels in total. Again, two zones of 15, zone 1, zone 2 obviously.
2.
So you can see, excuse me, as you change channel,
3.
it gives you
4.
a voice prompt.
5. 6. 7. 8. 7. 8. 9. 8.
So you could see that there's been a little mistake there made with the letter 8. It's actually an X instead of an 8. So
9. 10. 11. 12. 13.
now do you see that tone?
3.
The reason that you get that tone is there is no channel programmed on that channel. It's a blank channel and it gives you that warning, so that's quite good. So yeah, so you know, one of the minor issues is the channel 8 thing. It doesn't tell you that it's channel 8. There's another issue that I'll come on to later. One that could be a major one for you, depending on how you're going to use the radio. But in China at the minute they're still struggling with restrictions and stuff. But hopefully the issues I'm going to talk about here, minor issues, they'll be able to fix them through a firmware update. Looking on the side of the radio, in the middle here, you've got your PTT, and this feels really, really nice. Actually, all these buttons
1. Channel 3.
really, you know, feels really solid. It actually feels better than the RT85. This feels a bit cheaper. This one feels just a bit more solid. So you've got your PTT, and then you've got a top button and a lower button. These buttons can be programmed in the CPS software how you want, or what you want to do with them. So for example, if you can see here,
2. Channel 3. 1. Channel 3.
so I've got that programmed on a short switch. So when I press it once, it changes zones. Now I'm going to tell you that that's a bad thing to do, because I had this in my pocket at the weekend. People were using the radio and I couldn't hear them because I accidentally pressed this button and it changed the zone. So if you're going to do that, put it on the long press, so you can basically press it and hold it. If you press it and hold it, that gives you the monitor function. Again, with the top button, I don't have anything programmed in for the short press, but if I hold the button down,
Power. Low. Power. High.
so there's a number of functions, and I'm not going to go through you know, every one of them. you know, I'll let you have a look at the website. The website's quite good, and you know, for telling you what it does, all the features. So I think what I'll do now is I'll actually do some audio tests. Now I'm going to be testing this radio with my Anytone 878UV Plus. This is the only radio I have that does DMR, so we need that to test that. I've not managed to test this radio on DMR through a repeater or a hotspot, purely for the reason that I don't have a VHF hotspot. My hotspot's UHF only, but the tests that I have done, it's just been simplex. Basically, I've set up a zone with a talk group, and the same on the Anytone, and I've been communicating together like that. But going forward, for me, myself, I'm going to use this radio you know, as FM, you know, I think almost all the time. So let's go and have a look at the audio tests, and then I'll tell you about one issue that could be a deal breaker for you.
Is a receive audio test on FM simplex on the Retivis RT81V, transmitting on the Anytone 878UV Plus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is a receive audio test on DMR simplex, transmitting with the Anytone 878UV Plus, receiving on the Retivis RT81V. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is a transmit audio test on FM simplex, transmitting on the Retivis RT81V, receiving on the Anytone 878UV Plus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is a transmit audio test. I am transmitting using the Retivis RT81V, and I am receiving on the Anytone 878UV Plus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So audio I think sounds good. I can't really be overly critical with the audio. I find that the radio is quite loud as well. I think it's got a 1 watt of audio power specified, and I've had no issues with this in the field. I've used this in lots of wind, and no issues there. Now, talking of the one issue there that I've been alluding to. When I first received this radio, I wanted to set it up on a local repeater. Now that repeater was GB3LB, which was on the 2 meter amateur radio band. So I set it up, the radio as it should be, and for some reason I could not open the repeater. Now you've got to set a CTC SS tone on the transmit frequency only. So I did that, couldn't get it to work. I would try another radio, program it the same, so I would take the RT85, I'd program it, it would work. Couldn't figure out what was going on. I thought, is there something wrong with the repeater? I actually tried another repeater when I was away on holiday. It did the same. And then I actually tried to do some radio to radio tests, and then eventually the penny dropped what the issue is. Now, if you want, you're currently, with this radio that I have, you're unable to use CTC SS tones on transmit only. So the example of that is using a repeater. You don't need CTC SS to receive from a repeater, and if you do have that set, you're not going to hear anything, because obviously your radio's not going to open the squelch. So that's kind of a big issue if you want to use like the 2 meter repeaters. I've spoken to Retevis about this, and they're going to look into the issue, but it might take a little while. But a little bit frustrating for me that I can't use it on local repeaters. Now, if I set the CTCSS on transmitting and receiving RX-TX, TX-RX, it works absolutely fine. And that's actually how I've been using it with my other hobbies. I've been using this to communicate with some Motorola GP300s, and they use CTCSS on the TX and RX, and the radio's been working absolutely fine. So just a bug that may or may not be a big issue with you, depending on your application. The code plug software, I wouldn't so much say that there's a bugs with the code plug software. Again, I'm comparing it to my Anytone, but when you plug this into the radio, you need to make sure that you plug in this end first and then plug the USB into the computer. If you plug the USB end into the computer and then you plug the like the headphone jacks into here, what will happen is you'll actually put the radio into transmit, and you don't really want to do that, especially if you've got it near your face or something. You can read and write the radio. After you've read or written, it will switch the TX off. So just a little warning, plug it into the mic speaker socket and then plug into the computer. To use on the computer, you'll need to download the driver for the programming cable, but again, that's not an issue. Also on the code plug software, on the table, obviously it's like an Excel sheet where you put in your frequencies, and it's got a box that says alias. So this is where you can give a name to the channel. Even though there's no readout on here, it lets you know on the code plug, the program, that, you know, that is channel 1, that's channel 2, or that's home, that's work. So you can put that in and you can save the code plug. If you then write that code plug to the radio and then you read the code plug from the radio to the computer, it then doesn't show that alias. So the alias that's on the code plug software that you're typing in isn't transferred into here. Even though you don't need it, it's only when you take the code plug from the radio into the computer that you want to see what a channel is that you've given it a name. And you can't do that. So that is actually a little bit annoying. Again, if I was able to use this with ham radio channels, I'd maybe have S20 for 145500 here in the UK, or I would have GB3LB for Lothian Borders repeater, for example. Now, I said in the beginning that this Retivis this radio is IP67, so submersible, and I actually had my doubts. But, you know, I actually did a little experiment and I was actually pleasantly surprised. So let's go and take a look how it did. Now this radio is supposedly IP67 rated. So I think what we're going to do, now I think IP67 is 1.5 meters rated at 30 minutes. So I'm not going to test it to that extent, but I am going to submerge the radio for half an hour in this bucket of water here, and we'll see if it makes it on the other side. Turn it on first.
Power on. Sync.
And we'll put it in the water. We'll come back in half an hour. Okay, so that's just coming up to half an hour for the radio being submerged. And well, let's take it out and see if it's still working. So what we'll do is I'll turn it off. Give it a little shake. Let's see if it turns on.
Power on. Sync. 7, 8, 9, 11, 12. 2, channel 12. 1, channel 12. Power. Low. Power. High.
And the light is coming on there. It's maybe difficult to see. Yeah. So it looks like that was a success, which I'm pleased to say. There we go. I think that was surprising. Maybe shouldn't have been surprising, but it's really given me the confidence knowing that this radio is going to handle all weather. So when I take this out for my other hobbies, I don't care if it gets dropped in mud, I don't care if it gets dropped in water, the radio is going to survive and the radio is going to work. Fantastic. Now, we want to test the power output on this. Again, Retevis say that it does 10 watts high and 1 watt low. We want to test that. So I've got a little test rig set up. I'm not saying it's going to be the most accurate, but I think it's going to give us a good indication, and we're actually going to do a little bit of reference with the RT85, which is going to give us some confidence or not. So let's go and have a look at the power test and see how it did. So we're going to do some power output tests now. and I'm just going to use the equipment that I've got here to hand. I don't have a digital power meter here, but I do have this Nissi RX203. So, and actually for the control radio, I'm actually going to use this Retivis. This is an RT85, which is a brilliant little radio, and I've actually yet to find anything wrong with it. So just before we test the RT81V, I just want to show you the power that this is outputting. So this is on times 10, so it's the middle scale that we're wanting here. So we're going to look here and we're going to see what sort of power it's putting out. So if we look at that there, it's putting out, I would say it's just about 5 watts. 5 watts is what that's putting out, which is what it should put out. So now we're going to check the 81V. I should just say that on the back of this power meter here, SWR meter, I've actually got a dummy load, so we're not actually transmitting into any antenna. So here we've got the 81V, and this is actually on low power at the minute there, and let's see what sort of power it's putting out. So there you go, it's putting out, say, so we times that 0.4 by 10, and that's going to give us 4 watts. So low power, it's giving us about 4 watts, and in the spec it says that low power should be 1 watt. So you need to bear that in mind. It would be nice if the power was half a watt, or even the 1 watt that was specified. So we've got it on high power, and we're going to see how much power it puts it now. Now remember, in the spec it says that it should be outputting 10 watts. And actually, that's not far away at all. You can see this is actually a fully charged radio. So there we go. I would say that we're getting the 10 watts with that. So that's pretty good. So there you are. The power test's a little bit surprising. So obviously, the surprise for me, and maybe it shouldn't have been a surprise, that it is 10 watts on high. So that's really quite good. Whether you want 10 watts up to your face, you maybe want to keep the antenna pointed away. The low power, I have to say, is disappointing. Being round about 5 watts low power, I wish it was the 1 watt low, or even half a watt low would be absolutely great. So again, perhaps Retevis can take that away and change that, because I'm sure that's just that's obviously one of my local repeaters I've had in the radio was just opened up for that. But yeah, as I said, I wish that the low power was the 1 watt, or it was the half a watt. So again, I'm quite sure that could be rectified in the software. So I guess it comes to the magic question, do I recommend this radio? Should you buy it? I do really like the radio, but again, the fact that the CTCSS doesn't work on TX only, it could be a little bit of a deal breaker. If I wasn't given this radio, I probably wouldn't buy that radio, knowing that the radio had that issue. So again, it might be worth waiting for Retevis to actually come up with a fix for that. If that was working, then the other kind of bugs, the little ones like the channel 8 being the X, and the channel alias on the software, wouldn't really bother me, but that one issue is a little bit of a sticking point with me. But other than that, I think it's a really good radio. Only time will tell if it actually, it stands and it lasts, stands up. I'm going to test this throughout the winter at my other hobby, so I'll use this probably once. It'll be around about once a week or once every 2 weeks. I'll use this. I'm using this outside, and it'll be used in some quite harsh conditions. With radio obviously not being the primary hobby, so it'll get used and it'll get a little bit of abuse, and I'll be able to form a much better opinion come February, March time on how the radio is. Okay folks, so there we are. That's the Retivis RT81V commercial radio. If you've got any questions, anything that I've forgotten, I've not covered, please let me know down in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer those questions. And if it's something that I've not covered, I'll do my best to do that and let you know the outcome. 73 everyone, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.